Isn't it too bad that you have only your own present mind to guide you through life? Well, isn't it? Isn't it too bad that what you're relying on to make you happy, to make you comfortable, to give you a sense of direction, of purpose in life, isn't it too bad that the instrument you're using is not adequate to the task? Shouldn't that be a clue to you that you should search in another direction for strength, for intelligence, for inner integrity? Shouldn't that be a clue that you should search in another direction for what you really want out of life? For something that you want out of life that is authentically satisfying and solid. Now, I started off by asking you a question, and I wonder if maybe we're going too fast already, so let's all just slow down. It's been a busy day, huh? You've been thinking tens of thousands of thoughts, and your arms and your legs have been running all over the place, being very active. Now is the time to slow down and pause and give attention to something that is more worthwhile than you can possibly understand at this time. Something that has to do with all of your life. Something that has to do with your future. Now the question was, isn't it too bad that what you're relying upon, your present ways of thinking, are not doing it for you? Well, your mind isn't doing it for you, is it? Because you don't have solidity in your life. You don't have a real purpose. Oh, you have 1,000 purposes. You're going in 1,000 directions. But have you noticed how tired it keeps you? How weary you are at the end of the day, the end of the hour, the end of the minute? And you wonder, don't you? You wonder if there's any rest in the race. Well, the answer is yes. You haven't found it yet. And unless you change directions, unless you listen to what I'm telling you, you're not going to find it. Up till now, you've thought you've had the answers. Haven't you thought that? If you can just get more money, or more sex, or more companionship, or a little more fame, or a little more noise in your life, then you thought that perhaps that would do it. I tell you, it won't. But this is all good news, because having found out what won't work for us, we can go into the direction of what will. It's a long journey. It's a fascinating one. My next question to you is, do you want to take it? Will you leave in back of you all of your present values as best you can? Leave them in back of you and go forward in a different direction simply by listening intently tonight. Simply by paying close attention to everything, and especially watch how you react to what is being said. You see, we come into this world and we're instantly surrounded and captured by all sorts of wrong thoughts and feelings and ambitions and goals. And once they get hardened inside us, we don't want to let them go. And when new truths, a new way is offered to this old nature, it screams, it objects mightily against anything that might dislodge it from its supreme position in your life. But you see, listen to this, please. It is to the advantage of your true nature to start in this new direction. It's to your true advantage, even if you don't understand what I'm talking about. The advantage is still there, but you can find it. You must find it for yourself, simply by making a welcome to all the new thoughts that you're going to hear now. I want to tell you a story that has far more beneath the surface than you can presently see or understand. And this story has a very profound meaning for you. It has lots of meanings inside of it. Let's see how many you can grasp as I go along with it, and then I'll discuss it afterward. Here was a man who found himself out in the wilderness, out in a jungle, animal land. Here he was caught out there with all these vicious, snarling, snapping, attacking animals of every description. By the way, do you understand I've already described the world we live in? Well, what would you call it besides animal land, with everybody snapping at each other personally and internationally and in the family and in business, wherever you go? Well, anyway, here this man was caught out there, and he didn't like it any more, ladies and gentlemen, than you like being caught out in this animalistic world that you live in. You don't like it. You think it's the best you can do, and we'll say something about that later too. You don't like it. You're scared, aren't you? You're desperate. You're looking around for someone to help you. And you look to your own mind, and we said earlier, there's no help there. Every time you think you have a good idea, 5 minutes later you find out that it's a very bad idea after all. So you consult your mind again, and it betrays you again, doesn't it? Well, let's go on. So this man caught out in the wilderness with all the snapping, attacking, growling animals looked around for a way to escape, to get out of the whole place. So he ran around northeast, southwest, up and down the hills, and saw no way out. So his desperation grew, and he grew more tired, and he grew, ladies and gentlemen, listen to this, he grew more angry as its inability to find a solution to his severe problem. And he became hateful. And do you know what he did with all these wrong feelings? He did just what you do. He pressed them down and pretended they weren't there. He went around smiling a lot, but he didn't feel the smile, just as you do. You don't feel that smile, do you? And he tried to get involved in exciting activities, but every time he did, he got snapped at by one of the animals. So his condition was very, very serious, and he knew it. But one day, in his wandering around out there in the jungle, in the broad wilderness out there, he saw something that startled him. He'd never seen it before. And what he saw was a very tall wall, a white wall. And as he looked at it and got closer to it, he saw that it was a circular wall, a very large circle, hundreds of miles around. He could tell by the slant of it. So he went up to the wall, and he kind of sensed that if he could climb over this wall, he would be on the other side and he would be at peace at last, because it was obvious that the animals where he now was couldn't pass through the wall or get over it. So the wall became very fascinating to him. So he tried to follow it around, and indeed he found after 2 or 3 weeks that it was indeed a circular wall with something inside. So his first and foremost thought from then on was, of course, how can I get over it? How can I get onto the other side, where he knew there was something different there, something that he wanted most of all. But he couldn't find any way to get over it. It was very, very high and very, very smooth, no way to climb it in any way. He had no ropes or anything. And listen carefully to this and see if you can relate to later on when I'm going to explain something to you. Every time he tried to get some kind of material out in the jungle to make a ladder or something to get over the wall, all the animals snapped at him. They didn't want him to have anything to do with the wall, and they themselves didn't want anything to do with it. Are you following this a little bit? What I'm telling you already is that the world you live in wants nothing to do with peace of mind. Oh, they talk about it, and they print newspaper headlines on it, and they lie about it. The world doesn't want peace. It has nothing to do with peace, either inwardly or internationally. So the man grew in greater despair because there was this apparent rescue in front of him, but he didn't know how to climb over the wall. So he wandered all around it, yearning, wanting it more than anything. And he went on. See, he persisted in it. He didn't give up. He didn't give up. He didn't become a little coward and run away and say, well, I'm not going to be able to make it, so I'll give up and I'll go back to my miserable existence. He persisted. He was really brave. He was really courageous. The courage that comes, by the way, that wants something different. You'll have if you really want a different kind of a life, you'll find the strength to accomplish that will come to you. Anyway, he wandered around, all around the wall, trying to find an opening, found none. After a long, long time, he was walking around the wall, still trying to figure out a way to get over it, when he heard a sound, a thumping of some kind, a light sound. And he looked in back of him, and there were some long pieces of wood there. And immediately his mind said, I've got the wood. And his mind then went, ladder. But that's not enough to have pieces of wood. I have to have hammer and nails and other things to build a ladder to put up against the wall to escape here and arrive in the other place. More time passed, and he kept looking around and wondering. Then he heard a second sound as he would walk around the wall, and some nails came down. A few weeks later, a hammer came down. Now he had the essential, didn't he? Now he had to do something, didn't he? He had to do something, but he wanted to do it because he knew where it was going to lead him. He had a sensing already. So he got busy. He took the hammer and the nails and the wood, put it all in proper shape, and built a ladder. And he climbed up the ladder, got on the other side, and what he thought it was, what he suspected it was indeed the kind of a place that he wanted. Very peaceful, very quiet, no more fights, no more animals to run away from or to argue with. Very quiet, self-contained life. See the spiritual application of that? First of all, let's look at the man himself. You know who the man was? Well, let's rephrase it. The man is you, ladies and gentlemen, you out there who are tired of living in animal land. See, your problem is you're not tired enough. You're still enjoying fighting. You still love to battle and argue. And you love to scowl. There are a few people in this world, hopefully you're one of them, who doesn't want that kind of a life anymore. Aren't you tired of the internal struggle, of the conflict, of the contradiction? If so, if you're weary enough of that kind of life, then you're that man. You're the woman who can go on from there and finally climb over the wall. And let's look at the bits of wood and the tools that were thrown down to the man. You know what they are? They represent bits of truth, the spirit of reality that you're hearing right now. You're collecting them now. Do you know that you're collecting bits out of which you could make a ladder and climb out of this madhouse of a world right while you're in it? Yes, you could be right here, right, conducting your business, taking care of the children at home or whatever you do, and you can be in that other land. Truth says so. That's why. Look at the most important thing of all, which is the wall itself. What do you think the wall consists of? Let me tell you. And you think long and hard about this now. You take these bits of truth, these bits of wood and tools home with you and think about them. The wall which blocked the man from climbing over to a new life, the wall explained is a wall of human thought. What prevents all of you from really enjoying life, from being a free and casual human being. You're not very casual, are you? You're impulsive, and you're nervous, and you're jumpy, and you're terrified at what somebody can do against you. This is your wall. I've just described the wall that's in your own mind, your wall of thoughts, the accumulation of ideas, opinions, and arguments, and scowlings. The wall consists of these thousands of hard little bits of what you call facts, which are not facts at all, but are defenses and offenses. You've collected them all your life, and your thoughts themselves form the wall that prevents you from finding something other than the life you are now living in, and which isn't very pleasant, is it? So that means you're going to have to examine the wall, examine your thoughts, doesn't it? And one thing you'll find as you do so, you'll find that all these false thoughts that you've collected up in your mind, you have false thoughts toward your false thoughts. You see something inside of you, and then because you don't understand how to proceed, because you haven't got the bits of truth that can help you, you go into false ideas about your false ideas. For example, now let's see. You test this for yourself as I'm talking to you. A false thought would be, and a false thought about a false thought would be, your belief that it is necessary for you to continue to live as you have lived. Now I'll tell you another one that's far worse than that. A false thought is your wish, your desire to continue in your present ways. Now what kind of intelligence would you call it when a human being says, I want to stay exactly as I am, as miserable as it is? Well, I leave it to you. Would you call it intelligent or foolish for a human being to want to remain in the animal land of his own present system? You know very well what the answer to that is. So you see, we have so many problems, which represents the very, very high and very hard and very thick wall. And we don't know how to think toward the problem. You remember what I said earlier? I said, if you really want it badly enough, if you don't want to fight anymore, if you don't value fighting anymore, if you don't value this world's rewards anymore, one day you'll be thinking about all that we've talked about, and you'll go over near that wall, and wandering around it one day, you'll hear a sound of something being thrown down from the other side. You see, truth being on the inside of that wall is the person, the entity that throws these bits of truth, the tools, over to you. It's wanting to, it's waiting to. So it throws them over, and you'll hear something and see something different happening to you. And you'll say, hey, that's different. When you see those bits of wood and the hammer down there and the nails, now you'll know what it means to have real direction in life, real purpose. The real purpose is to get out of animal land, to build the ladder and climb over, and to be a real human being. Oh, no one will ever have to tell you what the real purpose of life is then. You'll know it. You will live it. Oh, how rightly excited you'll be to run around trying to find those bits of wood and the nails. Put them together, form them to form the ladder, to get up over to the other side. Oh, you'll be so excited. And you know something else you'll sense? You'll sense that your climbing of this wall isn't just delivering you from something, but to something. To something that you could never have comprehended before because you were too busy fighting. You were too busy fearing people, too busy protecting your petty little gains. Now your mind is beginning to open properly, and your spirit is beginning to receive things. Your spirit is being taught spiritually by what's on the inside of that wall. And you begin to see that there was no sense at all in you staying where you were and fighting, because there really is something else. There's something else for you personally. But I'm afraid most people hang around quite at a distance from the wall and continue to fight with each other and get hurt and cry a lot. And they all think, just as you think, that something is out to get you, that you're being surrounded by a menace. Well, that's a fact. Of course you are. And the menace is you. Who else? The menace is the barrier is the wall is your hardened thoughts, which you prefer to investigating the possibilities of climbing the wall, which can be done. And so human beings go around always feeling as if something is chasing them. Let me tell you how to change all that. Well, you'll agree you feel chased, don't you? Persecuted, financially, you're poor off financially, socially, people don't like you maybe. Maybe there's a reason for it. But we don't want to see that, do we? We want to pretend that we're okay and we're nice and pleasant. People feel chased by something. And they can't quite identify. It's awful vague, isn't it? Well, I'm going to end the vagueness for you right now. What's chasing you is you. Your own misconceptions, your own false desires, your own illusory beliefs about yourself and what you should be doing here in this world. Now listen to this. We agreed that something is chasing you, all right, of course. Don't you know? Don't you want to know that truth wants to chase you and catch you? Why are you wasting your time with all your horrors and your fears of being chased by a monster? Your own dark emotions, your wild reactions to life. I encourage you and I cordially invite you right now to change your thinking as follows. From now on, you will think that truth is after you to save you from yourself, to save you from the wilderness, from the animals and the growls and the hurts out there. Truth wants to catch you in order to show you how to get over the wall. And from now on, you have no excuse now for thinking in a paranoid fashion that you're being persecuted by everything and everyone. Because I've just told you that you can switch your thinking, flip-flop it over, and think, how marvelous. I'm being pursued by the spirit of reality, by truth. Why don't I let truth catch me? So they can start to do something with me which I can't do for myself. And indeed you can't. You've tried it. Have you ever tried to be good, for example? Notice how bad it was. Notice how you don't even know what it means to be good. You don't. Only a spiritual mind understands what it means to be truly good. And that goodness gives no merit to the individual. Only truth is good, and when you're sharing truth, then you share its goodness. And then there's no individual who can claim to be virtuous, because you understand that it's the virtue of truth itself. That means you're going to have to slow down, doesn't it? You're going to have to stop running around. You're going to have to let reality catch up with you and begin to give you its lessons. And I've told you what the lessons are. You begin to see that it's giving you what you need in order to climb away from yourself, in order to advance into something that's entirely different from your present nature. You remember I said the man who found the tools in the wood started to get real excited over what he had found because he knew he now had a purpose. His life had a meaning for the first time. You can have your own meaning, which will be a beautiful thing for you, something that you've never thought before, something you've never seen before, something that has never rewarded you before, but now you're beginning to feel the reward because it's coming from another place and coming to you. And it will do for you everything that you want done, truly want done, that will make you a different kind of a human being.